Is your current success putting a lot of demands on you? If you're good at what you do, and you are, then everyone wants you. But that's no way to scale. If you're delivering spectacular results, you should be commanding higher fees, working with only the best clients. Welcome to the Hands Off CEO podcast, where world-class agency owners and consultants learn how to fully monetize their expertise and scale profits by doing less. Here's your host, Mandi Ellefson.
The winning consultancies of 2024, what are they doing? Today, I'm going to share with you the 4 things that they are doing that is setting them apart from the struggling consulting firms. We've had the opportunity to consult with thousands of consulting companies over the past 12 years during our time here at Hands Off CEO. You can add to that the company that I owned before that, where I worked with a number of consulting firms and agencies. What is the difference between the top performing consulting firms and the consulting firms that really were struggling, or the agencies that were really struggling? So 2024 has been quite the year. It's been a challenging year for many companies. And we have seen a tremendous amount of changes happen in the past 4 years. But really, there are some certain trends that we have seen over this past year that I want to share with you so you can see what the top consulting firms are doing right now, so that you can emulate that. And this comes from our work with our agencies, where we work with really the top consulting firms and those who want to become the top consulting firms. So first is that they're niche down, they're results driven. They're results driven as far as generating client results, and they're also results driven as far as the internal culture within their team. Like, their team has to really be focused on generating output. They're also proactive hunters and farmers. Well, so the companies that are struggling are the ones that are everything to everyone, where they are doing labor arbitrage, basically. Like, you've got a problem? Yep, we can do that. You have this other problem? Sure, we can do that. We can do all these different things. Well, it's very useful and valuable that you can help with your clients with a number of problems, but what level of problems are you actually solving? So the top consulting firms they're niche down to solve very expensive problems, like $1 million expensive problems, where they can either generate that growth, they can save companies' profits, they can solve problems that are very painful, that are stopping them from doing some other big thing. Anyway, they're focused on bigger solutions that make a difference, versus the companies that are struggling. They are focused on solutions that are pretty low level, and that anyone can do it. And that doesn't mean that they don't have the capacity to do a lot more. In fact, we see all the time companies where they're like top like 10, 20% of their clients, they deliver remarkable results for. And then what happens is they get all these referrals along the way. And before you know it, they have this company that's at least half of their company is like full of clients that really aren't the most ideal. And they're delivering work for them that's the client, they're generally pretty happy with it, but it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing that it's nothing life-changing. And it's the kind of work that tends to eat up a lot of capacity, but deliver very little results for the client as far as like what you can actually see on paper. The companies that are niching down around problem sets and around type of clients, that's oftentimes we hear all the time, should I niche down on like the service, or should I niche down on the client? Well, here's the thing is that you actually want to niche down on, like, I'll say all of that, but actually think of it in a different way. Think of it around, what do we want to be known for? What transformation do we want to be known for? And then who could you deliver that transformation for? It's really thinking, it's really visioning out, what do we want to create in the market? And then from there, you're like, who do we want to serve doing that? So if we want to be able to we want to be known for being able to deliver these really, really amazing digital experiences that generate millions of dollars for companies. Like, who could you deliver those experiences for? What would it mean for them? It's looking at those variables there so that you can drive the biggest results. That comes to the second one around results. They're driven by results. So it's quite difficult to be able to have any scale around results if you have a passive way about generating new business. So I was mentioning the referrals before. The referrals come in, and then you're looking at, well, yeah, we can do that for you. We can do that for you. But you don't really know what kind of result that you can provide, because it might be a new project that you've never taken on before. And then what happens also too is that the CEO gets very stuck in the day-to-day with that. So instead of, using that time and energy to go and innovate the whole company and innovate a product line or a service line specifically that's going to create a particular type of transformation in the industry, they're focusing on creating these individual transformations for clients individually. And they're custom and they're one-off. And it leads to a place where the owner is being pulled into the day-to-day on these pieces, or your highest level resources. If the owner may be out of some of those pieces there, but at the end of the day, what happens is that there's just not a lot of energy left over to innovate on a more global scale in the company. It's also quite difficult to be saying, you know what, we do great work for companies. We do this great SEO services or these great marketing plans or this great D2C marketing campaigns or whatever it is that you're doing for your clients. But until you can actually say, when we do this work for you, it's going to be able to generate this kind of result, then you are really putting yourself in a position where you don't have the same level of expertise in the market that you could. When you're really results focused with clients and you start looking at every new client opportunity as this is how we're going to use this client opportunity to create the very best case study we've ever had. And you can use that to go leverage to be able to get more work, better work. And it'll allow you to continue to up-level what you can charge as well. Because when you are focused on results and driving results for your clients, imagine your top 5% case studies for your clients. Like, let's imagine that let's just throw this one out there. Maybe you help this company be able to drive so much growth that, a $5 million company, and they ultimately were able to get to 15 million or 20 million over a certain amount of time. Can you do that for every one of your clients? No way, right? But what if every new client you brought on, you were able to, at minimum, be able to create, a $10 million transformation at minimum? What if you could create the conditions for success in your company that allows you to be able to create those type of transformations? If you knew that you could do that for every one of your new clients coming in, how much easier would that be to bring in new sales? How much easier would that be to create campaigns around that where you're excited to be reaching out to these type of companies that you can add $10 million for? Just for example, I'm using an example here, and it takes a little more. You're like, I don't know how I could do that. Well, I get it. That it takes something. It takes some innovation to go through this, and our clients spend some time to go through this and to really think deeply on where they can deliver the biggest impact in their industry. What skills do they have to bring all together from their internally within their team, but mostly from themselves, what they have done and how they can incorporate this into and bake this into their systems. And the beautiful thing too is that as your company grows, you can actually go and add more skills and resources to your client roadmap, to the way that you're working with your clients. Even for example, one of our big up levels for 2024, we have had Ben on our team. He is our client success manager, and he has 20 years of sales experience where he's putting together sales departments, where he has put together multiple sales departments that he's helped scale to over 100 million, some beyond 300 million, and even been participated as part of his exits. Now, that is a unique skill set that has allowed us to be able to build out our roadmap to be a lot more sales focused, where additional services we're offering now that are very much focused on building out sales teams, building out the sales departments, and really getting companies to grow without the CEO. That's a natural progression that can happen as you continue to expand your company. You can deliver bigger and bolder promises to your clients, and that's really exciting for us. So I may do another episode on that, and we could dial in what are some of the changes that we've made, how have we innovated in that, so you can kind of see how we're practicing what we preach. But anyway, that the top firms are always innovating their results. They're pushing their systems to say, how can we be able to deliver better results for our clients? And by the way, you have to be looking at that now, because some of the things that you have done manually in the past, you can be able to use automation and AI to be able to support you to do a lot of things that were quite manual before, and you can get a lot more done in a short amount of time if you really deeply understand how to be able to use some of these tools and play with them and figure out some of the ways that you can get better quality. It's really at the end game is about better quality, and you can use that to keep on up-leveling your services, giving a better experience for your clients overall. And that's something that we're always looking at internally at Hands Off CEO as well. Number 3 is a results-driven team. So one of the things that happen as we go through this innovation process with our clients, when we call it, it's called our irresistible offer process. What goes on is they start looking at this mindset shift that happens where they're moving from, we're offering our clients these deliverables. This is the deliverables we're offering. You're going to get this website. You're going to get these campaigns. You're going to get this exit strategy. You're going to get, whatever it is that they're looking at and saying they're checking off the boxes on those, right? So the problem is that deliverables alone doesn't necessarily create a result, as we were just talking about with the last point. So what happens is there's this shift where you're starting to recognize that and step into, we are a growth partner for our clients. We are partnering with our clients to actually drive real tangible results. And when you get away from this thinking around tasks and completing tasks to actually completing real outcomes, then you start seeing a gap. And that's happening in your team too. So you're asking yourself the question, is our team actually operating in a way where we are delivering quantifiable outcomes within our company? Are we actually doing the work that's going to drive growth? Or are we just operating based on SOPs and checking off the boxes and saying, you know what, I did my job, and showing up to work and just checking it off that way? A lot of companies, their teams are driven more by tasks rather than accountability, rather than KPIs. The right kind of team members are going to be so excited about an up-leveled vision and the direction of the growth. If they're given the support to be able to hit certain KPIs, they're going to be so excited to do that. Because your best people, they want to grow, they want to learn new things, and they want to win. They want to be on the winning team. So the whole cultural upgrade for your team, that's one of the things that we see with the top performing consulting firms right now. And what that looks like, evaluating each team member based on the core values. How are they showing up? And actually having, one of the systems that we use with our clients is a core value tracker, where we're looking at the core values in their job performance also, and how are they stacking up next to the core values. And this assessment is only as good as your core values. So if your core values don't represent what's actually needed in your company to generate results and is aligned with generating kind of transformations that you want to make in your industry, and just really what you stand for, then it's not going to be as useful. But if you're really clear on what those core values are and what you guys stand for and how you're actually running the company, you can be able to look at these team members and say, do we have the right people? Are these people going to help us get to the next level in our organization? Are they going to be there to help drive growth? Or is this person more of an order taker that is going to, to be the tasky kind of person? So I'm not saying there isn't a place for within your company for tasky people, but they can't be your leaders and they can't be very high paid people. And that's one of the things that we have seen across the board for the top performing consulting firms that we have worked with. They're making hard decisions. They're looking at their team and saying, do we have some legacy people that no longer belong on the bus? Are they aligned? Are the skills that we have right now aligned with the new direction, the new innovation that we have? And sometimes those are really small tweaks. And sometimes there are people that have stayed in the organization for far too long, and it becomes more and more apparent as the culture shifts. As they continue to raise the bar, sometimes those people self-select out. We've been seeing an increasing amount of that in 2024. It's actually so interesting that we've seen that really at a higher amount than we've ever seen before. And I think what's happening is there's just this crunch. This last year for many companies, it's been very difficult. And what that looks like is them taking a harder look at their resources. And when you're looking at, we want to create this next level growth. And when you're looking at your resources, like, do we want to allocate these resources to people that some of the team members that may, what I call turf builders, like they're more interested about like protecting their turf and keeping things how they are? Or are they vision builders? Are they there to be supporting you with your vision? When you're sharing, this is where we're going, I'm really excited about it, let's go, that they're like, yes, I'm here, let's go. And this is actually, we have some people on our team that are like, let's go. That's some of their favorite things to say. Do you have that energy and the excitement with your team that they're helping you drive this forward? Or are you the one sitting there having to generate everything, having to make every decision, having to come up with every new idea? If it's the latter, take a lesson from some of these top consulting firms that are actually building these teams that are aligned with their vision, that have the skill sets in alignment with the direction they want to go, or they're building them internally. You have to build them internally no matter what. You really need to have this results-driven team to be able to support these next level offers that you're delivering around results. Because here's the thing is that if you really want to stand by results, you need to have a team that can deliver results. And I think this is where some of the gaps happen. And I've actually seen some agencies, I had some conversations with some CEOs of companies, and they're like, well, you know what, we've had some pretty challenging situations with our clients. We've churned some clients, and we've not been able to deliver the promises that we made to them. So, you know what, I'm actually looking at maybe we should water down some of these promises and, make it a little bit easier. And then we'll have less churn. And you know what I say? No, that's the wrong way to look at that. It's looking at, no, if anything, maybe you're not making big enough promises, because if that level of promise where you are delivering right now, if you're able to charge, $5,000 a month for that, you might be in a situation where you have a big enough promise, but you're not charging enough to be able to deliver for it. So maybe what it is actually like tightening up that promise and actually being able to charge $10,000 a month. In fact, I had a conversation with a gentleman about that. From that conversation, and as we walked through that, he found an opportunity that, you know what, if he took this new approach, he could be able to add $1 million of net profits to his company over the next, 12 to 18 months. It's really powerful when you think about that, because if his services cost $5,000 a month, they're slightly profitable, but just maybe not making a lot of profit. And that's oftentimes the case, actually, by the way, because oftentimes the CEO will say, on paper, they'll say that we're profitable, but then they're actually not paying themselves a full market wage. So what that actually means is that they may be actually like just breaking even. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, as far as like, it doesn't mean you have a bad company. It just means that let's just look at what the real numbers are. So that this happens a lot, where we see that there's just not the level of profitability that they want. Now you take the $5,000 a month and then you take that to $10,000 a month. Now you have $5,000 of extra profit for your service. That doubles the profit. It's incredible what that can do. And we could extrapolate that across 10 clients. Let's say you have 10 clients paying you $5,000 extra a month. That's an extra $50,000 a month of profit. That's not nothing, right? Like, imagine how much easier it would be to deliver on those promises if you had an extra $50,000 of profit. Now, like, let's imagine that maybe the services cost a little more to deliver the service. Like maybe it costs another $1,000 a month to service that. Well, you still have $40,000 of extra profits with 10 clients, right? What ends up happening on this too is that as you start replacing these clients with these higher level clients, what ends up happening is you start to see that, these one clients generate so much more profit that some of these other lower level clients are actually eating up your capacity to be able to service on a higher level. And that's kind of a natural progression that we see with a lot of the top firms as they are really going towards this results focused approach. Again, to be able to deliver those great results, you need to be able to have the confidence that your team can deliver great results. And that is partly training. It's training them on the way that they need to be thinking, which is so important, and also the systems. So the system and the mindset, you have to be training both on that. And then they also need to have a certain base level of skills so they're worth developing, right? There's a certain threshold where I look at them like, is this person worth my time to develop? It may be a wonderful person, but if they don't meet a certain threshold, I'm not spending my time and energy investing into this person, because I want to be able to invest in this person and be able to give them feedback. I'm throughout the day, I want to be saying, okay, this is a way you can make this better, and ongoing do that. And like, they just become absolute superstars when you can be able to pour into your team in that way. But there's a threshold. And for me, I get really clear on who I'm willing to invest in and who I'm not. That's the power of creating a results-driven team, right? So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is proactive hunters, farmers. And I say hunters and farmers because one of the things that we have noticed with our consulting firm and agency owners is that they tend to be good at one or the other. And, some of them could be really good at hunting, and some of them are quite good at farming. And in fact, I would see a lot of our clients are actually probably the best at farming. And they have all sorts of great opportunities. And one of the things that we do, they're just missed out, and they just don't see some of these opportunities that are right under their nose. So one of the things that we see that makes a big difference for them is going after the low-hanging fruit. Now this is something that you can put on your calendar to be doing on a quarterly basis. At least we have this exercise. We did a workshop on this during the summer, actually, on the lowest hanging fruit workshop to be able to uncover $10,000 of extra sales and profits per month. That's really on the low end. When we walked our clients through this, they were able to generate a whole lot more than that. What you want to be doing is looking at what are the systems and processes that we need to have in place to consistently be pulling the opportunities out of our list that are already there, to be able to have them organized. Because one of the things that we see, even quite successful firms, they'll do pretty well on generating new leads. They maybe are doing pretty well on closing leads, but everything in the middle, there's a track, nurture, close. They're pretty good on the either side at the very end, but that nurture part is really where they drop the ball. And that's where an enormous amount of opportunities lie. In fact, it's about 97% of the market. So it's looking at how do we be able to harvest what's already in that. And by the way, December, January, a fantastic time to do that because your clients are looking at their budgets. They're looking at, what do we want to create for this next year? Where do we want to invest? They're already having this conversation right now. So enter this conversation they're already having, especially if you already have a relationship with them. Maybe they are a current client, a previous client, highly engaged prospect at one point. How could you re-engage them? How do you be able to bring up that conversation? Maybe it's just a matter of just like taking them out for coffee and having a conversation. What's new? How are things going? And using that as an opportunity to listen for what their challenges are. And, coming from a place of giving, use that as an opportunity to open up this conversation. Is that scalable? No, but is it effective? Absolutely. Right. So do what's effective way first before what's scalable. And that's one of the things that the top consulting firms are doing. They are focusing on relationships. They're focusing on doing the things that work rather than like trying to just have this whole flurry of activity and quote scale. So they're focusing on driving real results rather than on scale. And one of the things that we see that a lot of firms can do better, even the top ones, is building out systems for more of the hunting, right? So they may have done a lot of farming as far as, they've gone to a lot of conferences. Maybe they're speaking at different places. Maybe they've even done some exhibiting at trade shows. So they have these opportunities, right? But they're not doing as much outbound as they could. They don't have a consistent strategy where they're going and adding value and being able to follow up in a way that is going to be elegant and in a way that is going to actually help them see the value that they can bring them. So that is one of the things that we see a lot of times. And that's where this beefing up the sales departments is one of the things that we have been helping our clients with. We've been updating our roadmap on, and we are launching this for 2025 around being able to drive, triple the pipeline. We're seeing that with the clients we've been working on this with. Triple their pipeline and add millions of dollars of profitable growth. We've already been helping our clients be able to double their fees. Really, at minimum, that's the place where we're looking at. We're looking at helping them innovate the service and use that as a way to be able to get paid double for the same work, for about the same work. It's usually the case. It's about the same work. They already have to be delivering results, not churning. If they can't deliver results and they can't churn, first of all, we just won't take them on as a client because that's an uphill battle. And it's also setting us up to set someone else up to screw people over, which we don't like doing. And there's enough of that going on in the market. So if you're listening to this right now, one of the best things that you can do if you're in a situation where there might be churn or where you're not getting as good a results as you'd like, is to really get focused on results. Like look at every one of your accounts and saying, how could we deliver better results? If this client was only paying us, if we actually delivered real tangible growth, what would we do? Ask yourself the question on that for every one of your engagements. And I think a lot of agencies are scared of doing that because they're afraid of what they might find. They might find some engagements where they're not delivering any value, and they may have a value conflict there where they realize that they're taking money for not being able to actually deliver any real tangible value. And at that point, there's a hard decision to make. What decision are you going to make? Are you going to continue taking money for no actual value delivering for a client? Or are you going to free up that capacity and then really go after clients that you're going to be able to deliver a much bigger value for? That's a question there. Biggest driver of growth in 2024 are the companies that are really focusing on impact over scale. If you focus on impact first, when you get really dialed in for the transformation that you can create for which type of client, you can use that to be able to create this snowball effect of unfair advantages, where what happens is that you'll become known in your industry for this kind of transformation. You become known as the very best. I'll give you one example here. Jamie Birch's company, before he sold his company, the transformation they wanted to be known for is being able to add $10 million of new sales for B2C brands without stealing the leads that they'd already had and calling them there. So $10 million in 3 years, that was the transformation. That's a whole heck of a lot more exciting than affiliate marketing. Doing that helped them be able to double their fees. I have lots of other stories for that and many in the development phase that I can't yet share. But here's another one. Jane was on the podcast. You may have listened to our recent podcast with Jane McQuillan, where she shared where they were able to increase their fees 300%. It was 367%, something like that, on their monthly retainer. They went from selling, individual kind of hourly type of services, time and materials, and they went from that to having a longer term growth program with their clients. And what that looked like is that they moved from these individual little projects to a long-term year retainer that was renewed, and the program itself was 3 years. So what that did is it 10x'd their client lifetime value and an increase their monthly retainer 367%. What she shared with that is that the increase in profit on that, it's been over doubled their net profit. And she has her numbers because she knows that's what they do for their clients. They help them be able to increase their net profits, help them be able to double their net profits. They can add a certain number of extra profits for their company, and they guarantee that. And they help them be able to add millions of dollars to their exit. So when you bring about an offer like that, and that took something to get to that took something. Jane was wrestling with that, right? They had results, but they didn't have, she's like, I don't know how we can promise that. Well, how you promise that is you get really clear about who you can work with and under what kind of conditions. And that's what creates the kind of impact on the financial level, because you're bringing to market a service that really has a very big transformation. You're coming about as a growth partner. And when you're there as a growth partner, what that allows you to do is charge twice as much or more for the same work, and which at the same time, that makes it easier to sell those same services. When it's easier to sell the same services, now you can build processes and systems around consistent lead flow, which allows you to remove yourself from sales, which allows you to be able to also have the cash flow to be able to hire these amazing people, these amazing leaders in your company to drive growth. And you see what happens is that this ultimately creates this stacking effect of this snowballing where it's compounding, where you continue to have this whole stacking effect of all these unfair advantages in your company, in your firm. So that is what is possible for your agency when you focus on the top 4 things that the winners are doing already. Niching down, focusing on client results, leading their team to drive results for clients and drive internal results, and also they're proactive hunters and farmers that actually go after the kind of clients that they want to create transformations for. They are intentional. They have a vision. They go after it rather than sit and wait for the most ideal conditions to sit in front of them. What they're doing is they're sitting and waiting around. And they're saying, you know what? Well, we can't have this because these conditions. Anyone who's really powerful in their life knows that the way that you be able to create the life that you want is by you going and creating the conditions for the success that you want. It's no different in business. You're creating the conditions for success for your clients to be able to create the biggest outcomes. You're creating the conditions for success internally in your team, internally in your business, to be able to attract your very best types of team, people that want to be there. That means growing as a leader. That means upskilling and being able to show up in an empowering way where you have this vision that inspires them to be able that your words literally move people. And when you can do that, that's what unleashes the power in your organization. That's what unleashes the power in your leadership and in your ability to truly become a hands-off CEO. If you're listening to this and you're saying, wow, this sounds amazing. I would love to have this snowball effect in my company. What I'd like to do is make an invitation to you, an invitation for you to talk with a member of our team, our top growth advisors, where you will have the opportunity for us to look through your business, find these opportunities, look at what is stopping you from having these pieces in place. Where are you stacking up on these 4 areas that we talked about? We're going to be looking at that and saying, how can we be able to help you be able to create a bigger breakthrough for your clients. Sometimes there are just small tweaks to what you're doing. And it's oftentimes just about being able to be very intentional about the information that you're getting from your clients so that you have that feedback loop so you know what is working. So you're really taking responsibility and teaching your team how to take responsibility too. We'd love to help you do that. We'd love to have that session with you. Go to handsoffceo.com/scale, and you can apply to have that session with our team members. It's really just a great opportunity for us to look at your company, to be able to see the opportunities you have there, and for us to really pour into you and give you the feedback that you need to be able to transform your agency in 2025. This is Mandi Ellefson from Hands Off CEO, signing off.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Hands Off CEO with Mandi Ellefson. If you want to work less and make more, make sure you subscribe and get a new episode every week, and help spread the word by leaving a review.